welcome to this Facebook Live. I'm Chelsea. I'm so glad to have you here. I have a special fun project that can enhance your front yard, your backyard, or maybe even just a patio. It's a little loud out here today because there's some construction going on in the neighborhood, which to me is always a good thing, progress. So bear with me, but I want to get started on how I created this concrete garden bench that I have under these awesome crepe myrtle trees. It has this nice little natural shaded area in my front yard. I used Quikrete products. They're sponsoring this Facebook Live, and it's made out of concrete. So the first thing that you do with any concrete project is to create or buy some kind of form. So for this garden bench, I created a form, and I bought some materials at the home center, and I used melamine. And if you're not familiar with melamine, let me show you. So this is it's like a particle board, but then it's coated in this smooth white, kind of a, not plastic, but just a smooth coating. So it's, the concrete doesn't stick to it. So what you do is you determine what size you want your bench to be. I bought melamine that was 4 feet long, so I knew I wanted my bench to be that long or shorter. Let me see, what did I end up doing? Yeah, so this one's right at 4 feet. And then I determined how wide I wanted it to be and cut the melamine to that size. So that's the base or the bottom of the form. And what's kind of neat about casting concrete like this is that whatever is on the bottom of your form will actually be the top of your project. So you want to make sure that it is real smooth, and don't use any pieces that have chips like this piece as the bottom of your form. This is just a scrap that we had. Okay, so that's the melamine. And then another thing to keep in mind is you want it to be nice and smooth, and you want to level off the concrete when you put it in the form. So you need your side pieces to be the height of your side pieces of your form is the thickness of your project. So for this one, I wanted it to be about 4 inches thick. So I took 4 inches and added the thickness of my bottom melamine, and that's how I got this thickness of this board that I then put on the outside and just used drywall screws to attach it together real tight. I did one on this side and then added some on the ends to create the sides of the bench. So once you have your form together, then you want to just put a little bead of caulk in all of the corners on the bottom so that your concrete doesn't seep out. And then another thing about this particular bench is that I made the 2 legs exactly the same way, but they're just a tiny bit more narrow, and it just creates like a little bit of interest in visually that the bench overhangs the legs on the bottom. So you see that there. So since this was such a large project, I needed to mix the concrete relatively quickly and in a large contraption. So I used a wheelbarrow and a garden hoe or a flat shovel to mix up the high strength Quikrete concrete mix, and mix it up really well with following the directions, using the right amount of water. You don't want to have too much water because then your concrete isn't going to be as strong. And I was even able to use the wheelbarrow to kind of pour it into my forms on the ground. And that's another point. You want to make sure that your forms are on a level surface. Otherwise, you're going to have a little bit of a wave to your concrete project, and that's something that we don't want to happen. And since these are basically like slabs that are 4 inches thick, I did add some reinforcement wire in there. You can use rebar if you have that, or they sell some like a wire mesh at the home center in the concrete aisle that you can put in there. So I poured the concrete about halfway full, then added my reinforcement wire, and then poured the rest of the concrete. Once you have the form You want to overfill the form a little bit, and then you use a screed board or just a scrap 2x4 to level it off with the sides of your form and get all of the excess off so that it's nice and even, and it'll be a nice even thickness throughout your garden bench. And then another thing to do when you're casting concrete is you want to vibrate the bubbles out so that you don't have little bubbles, little voids in your concrete when it's cured. And so you can do that with a rubber mallet, you can do that with a battery powered sander without any sandpaper on it, and just kind of bump it along the edge of your forms. Anything that just kind of helps get that those bubbles, help those bubbles work their way out. So that's the basics of how I created the forms to create this neat garden bench, which to me can go so many different ways as far as style. You could have this for mid-century modern, you could have this for traditional, you could have this in contemporary style home, a modern kind of home. And oh, I just thought of one more thing. You can paint the concrete, but what I actually did is I added a little bit of Quikrete cement color dye. You add it, it's a liquid, so you add it to your water before you add it into your concrete mix. And so it just gave it a little bit more depth in the color than a typical concrete color. So there's that option there. I used charcoal. They have a terracotta, a brown, and I think one more. I can't remember what the color is, but that's an option too to make your bench even more personalized. So that about wraps up how to make a concrete garden bench. Of course, we have a full how-to video for you at todayshomeowner.com that you can check out, and then you'll be sitting pretty in your yard once you have your garden bench all cured and secured together. Thanks so much for visiting and watching this video. Be sure to share with any friends who might be interested in a concrete garden bench, or send it to your significant other if you want one for your next birthday or maybe even Christmas. That's far away, but coming up soon. Thanks so much.